Another 10-2 season for Penn State last year. We looked at 2024, and I'm going to give you my predictions for this team. We'll go game by game. First, just some thoughts on the Nittany Lions. We start with the offensive side. I think Drew Aller will improve this year. I think giving him another offseason and a new offense. I think that the passing game, at least on his part, should look a little bit better in 2024. But you do wonder about the wide receiver position. They definitely lack depth there. Julian Fleming coming over figures to be their number one guy, but again, they don't have a lot of options at wide receiver, at least proven wide receivers. Of course, tight end position should be pretty strong for them. Running back position, no question marks there at all. Offensive line, how good are they going to be? I don't know that they're going to be a dominant offensive line, but I think they'll be solid. And they're really going to need that offensive line to step up if this team has to rely on the run again. And then on the defensive side, they should be good, should be really good. Maybe not quite as good as last year, but should still be one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. And so, yeah, it's just going to be a solid team once again, just like we get pretty much every year. I think what's going to hold them back from potentially being a national championship contender will be that passing game. We'll see. So we'll start with, let's look at Vegas. Vegas has the win total at 9.5. A lot of teams seem to have that number this year. 9.5 wins for Penn State. I think that's fair. I think that's a pretty good spot for them. The schedule's not horrible. You know, you've got West Virginia in the non-conference. You've got USC and Wisconsin both on the road. And you got Ohio State. You know, it's not a terrible schedule. They do open up here with West Virginia. They'll play them on the road. Big noon kickoff to kick off the season. This is, I think a lot of people are just assuming Penn State wins this game. This is, in my opinion, going to be a really good game, and West Virginia absolutely has a chance to win. This is a team that's bringing back a ton of production. They're probably actually a more veteran team than Penn State. It's going to be a tough one, I think, for the Nittany Lions playing on the road. I think it's one that's probably going to come down to the wire. But I do think Drew Aller, I think he improves from where he was last year, and he makes enough plays in this game. Played well last year, if I remember correctly, against West Virginia. I think the defense in the run game, what Penn State does, I think it'll be enough. Just the overall talent, I think their defense comes through and they win. But it's close. And again, I wouldn't be surprised at all if West Virginia won this game. But I'm going Penn State. And then they get Bowling Green and Kent State after that. They should win both of those games without much trouble. And so I've got them starting 3-0. They'll play Illinois next on September 28th at home. Not high on this Illinois team at all. I don't think this is going to be a challenge for Penn State. I think they roll here and start to build some confidence. A 4-0 start. Maybe the offense is playing pretty well at this point. They get UCLA the next week on October the 5th. This one, you know, I think UCLA is another team that people are maybe underestimating a little bit. There's still a lot of talent on that roster, but they lost a lot. The coaching staff's gone. Did lose some players to the transfer portal. The game's at Penn State, so because of that, I really don't see Penn State sleeping in this game. I think they come out and they're ready to go. They beat UCLA and they get to 5-0. Remember, they circle back for a second. Their first bye week is actually between Bowling Green and Kent State. A terrible spot for a bye week, but just wanted to throw that in there. All right, the next week they play USC on October 12th on the road. Going to be a tough one for sure. This Penn State defense, are they up for the challenge? I think they're up for slowing down this USC offense, but can they stop them? I don't know. I don't know if the corners are going to be good enough to stop an explosive group of wide receivers, USC, in this Lincoln Riley offense. I think USC is going to be able to score in this game. Can Penn State score enough? And I don't think USC is going to score 40 points, but they could score, 27, 28 points, something like that. Can Penn State score that much? It's a USC defense that was not very good last year, but we do expect them to be improved this year. And playing at home, usually defenses play a lot better at home, so I think this USC defense will be really fired up for this game, and I think they'll make enough plays. The home field advantage might swing this, and I'm actually going to go with USC to win this game. So I got Penn State losing their first game of the season here against USC on the road. Again, this is a tough one. I think between West Virginia and USC, they're going to split those two. Maybe they lose to West Virginia and beat USC, but I don't see them winning both of those road games. They get their second bye week after USC, so their bye weeks are gone by the time they get to October 26th, and this will be a tough one on the road at Wisconsin. This is going to be a very solid Wisconsin team. I think the bye week will help Penn State. I think they'll have extra time to prepare. But you look at where this is on the schedule. Ohio State the next week. This is a tough spot on the schedule for this game. I think Penn State's going to have a hard time in this one, but I think they have just enough. I think their defense will step up. They'll make a few plays, and they'll find a way to win. But again, it's going to be tough. I think the defensive line for Wisconsin is not going to be a strength, and I think Penn State's ability to push them around a little bit, run the football, that'll be big in this game as well. Wisconsin's strength is actually their secondary this year, which is not a great matchup. Penn State, we're not really worried about their pass game, of course. So I think this is a good matchup for Penn State. It's tough. It's on the road, but I think they find a way to get it done. So 6-1. Then they play Ohio State on November 2nd. Going to be a tough one. I think we're going to see a similar game to what we saw last year. Two good defenses, two really good defenses. It's at Penn State, though, so we would expect them to play really inspired in this game, play really tough. I think their defense will keep Ohio State in check. I don't think Ohio State scores enough, but this Ohio State defense is just going to be really, really good. And I think Penn State struggles to score in this game unless their passing game is just a lot better than I'm expecting. Again, it's going to be tough for them to score. So I think Ohio State's defense just too good, and they do enough on offense to win this game. I've got Penn State dropping to 6-2 after this one. Then they'll play Washington on November the 9th, playing them at home. A Washington team that should be pretty solid. I don't think they're going to drop off a ton, but they're not going to be anything like they were last year. The offensive line for Washington, I think, is going to struggle here. Penn State's defense should be able to dominate them up front. Home field advantage for Penn State. I think the offense will do enough. They were able to run the football some in this game and get a win over Washington. And you look at the rest of their schedule, it's really not that tough. You get Purdue next on November 16th. Game is on the road, but Purdue just not going to be a very good team, and I don't think that Purdue is going to be able to score much in this game. So I like Penn State to go on the road and win that one. Minnesota might be a tougher challenge. They're going to have a good run game. New quarterback coming in there. We'll see what this offense looks like for Minnesota. You can expect Minnesota to do what they do and run the football, chew the clock. So this is probably going to be a low-scoring, close game, but I think Penn State's got too much talent. I think Drew Aller, again, I think he'll be better this year, and I think maybe he makes a few plays late. Penn State's able to win, maybe like win by 10 points, something like that. But I do think the game will be pretty close. And then we've got Maryland on November the 30th at home for Penn State, final game of the regular season. And I'm not real high on Maryland. I think they'll be a solid team, kind of like we've seen in the last few years. Penn State, though, should be able to, in my opinion, run the football in this game. I think their defense should be able to control the Maryland offense. And, again, they're just a better team. Playing at home, no reason to expect them to lose. So I think they beat Maryland, and they finish, guess what, 10-2. That seems to be the record every year for Penn State. I really look at 4 games, though. I look at West Virginia, USC, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. I would be very surprised if Penn State lost to anyone else on the schedule. Can they win all 4 of those games? Possibly, but probably not. Could they lose all 4 of those games? Possibly, but probably not. So I think this is probably a 9-3, 10-2 type team. Again, with 3 tough road games, it wouldn't shock me if they did drop another game and finish 9-3. But I'm going 10-2. I think Penn State does what they always do, and they get to that 10 wins. That's where I've got them, and that should be enough, of course, to get them into the college football playoff. Do you guys agree with these predictions? Let me know your thoughts on Penn State down in the comments below.